Hello, welcome to the Forum's online short course in policy engagement. Imperial has a great history of having impact through scientific discoveries and spin-outs, but we also have a lot to contribute to the key policy debates. The Forum is Imperial College London's policy engagement programme. It connects Imperial researchers with policymakers to discover new thinking on global challenges. This short course aims to help researchers in their first steps in policy engagement. Over the course of this 7-part series, we will look at why engage with policy and how the Forum can help, engaging with Parliament, the civil service, local government and the European Union, and tools for engaging, policy briefings and evidence submissions. Let's start by looking at why you might like to engage with policymakers and how the Forum can help.
Firstly, what is policy engagement? It's an umbrella term describing the connections between policymakers and researchers. This can take many different forms, from contributing to government and parliamentary inquiries, reports and committees, to publishing targeted briefings for policy audience and giving presentations and leading workshops with partners and government. It can also include working with think tanks and third sector organisations to pursue shared policy interests. Engaging with policy can help you increase the profile, influence and impact of your research.
So I think policy engagement is a really important activity. We have great researchers here at Imperial who write fantastic papers, and many of those papers go on to have scientific impact in terms of spin-outs and startups. But actually an area where I think we've been less strong historically is around policy impact. And I think policy impact, having an impact on what the government is thinking, what society is thinking, is really crucial. I think we have some great information to impart that should influence policy, and I just felt that we weren't necessarily having that impact. So the Forum is very much about bringing academics and folk in government departments together to learn from one another, and I think the co-creation part is really important. So I think it's important for Imperial academics and researchers to find out about and understand what's driving policymakers, what are their key issues, how do you communicate effectively with them. And I think for policymakers it's really important to understand the science that underpins the policies areas that they're making. I spent 6 years in government as the Chief Scientific Advisor for National Security. I had a fantastic time in government, and actually I felt that the advice I was able to give both to operations and to policy really made an impact on the national security agencies. It really helped them make the best use of science and to understand why they were doing things and how they could do things even better.
I think policy engagement is important for academics if they have a vision that their work eventually, even if it starts at a very theoretical level, will have some impact on the ground. So the area that I'm working on, which is the link between the engineering and the environment, is very practical area of work with what is happening globally with the climate emergency, which is real.
I think policy engagement is important for us as researchers, for any research. I think that should really be one of the key outcomes of the research. I think it's particularly important for us, given the topic that we work on. I think privacy, a lot of the standards are going to be defined through regulatory bodies, and so it's particularly important for us to make sure that the latest evidence is taken into account when writing policy documents or guidance.
I personally have a feeling that currently everyone who has any capacity to come with one part of the solution of that big problem of further development, economic growth, but environmental protection at the same time, which currently is not compatible. I think we all should play and try to have our role in finding those solutions.
The Forum is here to help researchers who are engaging with policymakers or who would like to begin doing so. Run by the Public Affairs team, we provide advice and resources for researchers, organising regular group training sessions, giving one-to-one support and helping researchers establish contacts in Whitehall and Westminster. Our online resources will also help you understand the policy-making process, including the key players and how to influence them. We also run workshops for policymakers led by our academics to give an insight into the world-leading research done here at Imperial. Topics have included AI in health, AI in the future of work, air quality, data privacy, decarbonising industry, food and nutrition, personalised medicine, plastics and vaccines.
The Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology, they do quite a bit of work, really good work and outreach activities to ensure that the right sort of information and evidence goes into the policy briefings that are available to MPs. So I recommend getting in touch with them and working with them. I think that responding to calls for evidence by select committees are a direct route to ensuring that research evidence feeds into the process of policy scrutiny.
If anything, this engagement over the last 2 years or so with policymakers, it taught me that unless we understand how they think, how they see the problems and also how they see which solutions could work, that whatever we do on our academic side will always stay there. If people are interested to create a change, they should try to understand how the change could actually happen.
My tip for researchers looking to engage with policy is that you kind of have to spend quite a bit of time on developing relationships with people. Things don't happen overnight. A lot of people who are involved in policy have day-to-day issues that they're dealing with and managing. We're coming at it from a research perspective, which is kind of secondary to their main purpose. So we have to understand that they've got a primary role often and try and work with them to fit our research into what they're doing already, whether that be a new test or a new experiment, a new way of thinking about something, but we have to kind of understand the environment, the context that they're working in.
I hope you find this course useful. You can get in touch with the forum by emailing us at v.forum@imperial.ac.uk, visiting our website or following us on Twitter.